In Eastern Europe, 1934, Polski, a chess player, lived happily with his family. His wife loved roses dearly and attended to them carefully. She gives Polski a bouquet of her favorite, which are the black roses. The family then gathered to take a picture. 26 years later in South America, Polski is now an old man living alone in a worn-out building. He lost his entire family during World War II until now. He still hardly steps out to live a normal life because of the pain from the past. He spends his time making coffee, reading the newspapers, spending long hours in the bathroom, and caring for his wife's favorite roses just like she used to do. The roses are the only thing that puts a smile on his face. One day while he's taking a nap in his chair, he hears his doorbell ring and goes to check who it is. It is a middle-aged woman who introduces herself as Kaltenbrunner. She saw the for sale notice on the fence of the house beside Polski's and decided to buy it. Kaltenbrunner asks Polski if he has got the phone number of the owner, but he angrily tells her he doesn't have it and closes the peephole in her face. Days later, while Polski is harvesting some vegetables, he hears noise coming from the next house. He peeps through a hole in the fence to see what's going on. Kaltenbrunner found a way to own the property and is already working on it. When night falls, Kaltenbrunner enters the house with a man in an all-black attire. Polski watches them from his window and thinks there is something fishy about them. The next day, after taking his newspaper from the mailman, he notices that some branches of the rose plant are broken. As he goes around the plant looking for the broken ones, the dog from the next house appears through the broken fence and barks at him. Polski, out of fear, falls to the ground and accidentally dips his hand into the dog's poop. He wraps it in his newspaper and marches straight to his neighbor's house to report the issue. Herzog, a man in dark glasses, shows up when Polski rings the bell. Polski explains everything to him, tells him to fix the fence, and even shows him the poop as evidence, but the man insists his dog is well trained so he isn't responsible. When he leaves, Polski opens the peephole and pushes the poop into it. The next day, Kaltenbrunner shows up and apologizes for Herzog's behavior. She wants to put up a new fence since the old one is already in its bad state. Not a big deal. Kaltenbrunner found out that part of Polski's land belongs to them, so she has plans to take it back when putting up the new fence. She tells Polski to transplant his roses, but he says he won't and opens the door for her to leave. She tells Polski she will take it to the law if he doesn't uproot it from their land. Polski doesn't uproot the roses and he gets summoned to the town council. After a long let-out from both parties, they settle that Polski leaves the roses on Herzog's land. After the new fence is put up, Polski writes instructions of how Herzog should water the roses, but when Herzog lays hands on the sheet, he throws it away. Polski loses patience and decides to water the roses himself. When he gets to Herzog's door, he prevents him from entering and it turns into a quarrel. Herzog's glasses fall off. Polski freezes in fear when he sees Herzog's eyes. He knew him from somewhere. Herzog put his glasses back on and told Polski to leave him in peace. Polski leaves without saying a word and heads straight into his living room to search for a picture of him to clear his doubts. When he finally finds the picture, he realizes that Herzog is Adolf Hitler, the man who killed his entire family. The next day, Polski goes to town to report Herzog to the intelligence officer. The intelligence officer sees Polski as an old man having mental issues. Because Adolf died years ago, Polski tells her his death was just a plot to take people's minds off him, but it still doesn't sound right to her. She asks Polski to gather enough evidence to prove his points. Polski then purchases a camera and some books about Adolf Hitler. When he gets home, he ticks all the characteristics of Adolf he knows and fixes the camera to get it ready for use. Reading about Adolf is now his newfound hobby. He cuts Adolf's pictures out of the book to take matching pictures of him doing the exact thing. He takes pictures of Herzog playing with his dog, bursting out in anger, his love for art and painting style. When he gets enough pictures to prove that the books written about Adolf match his neighbor Adolf, he prints them and takes them to the intelligence officer the next day. After presenting all his findings to the intelligence officer, she still doesn't see why she should invest her time into something about a dead man. When Polski insists, she recommends that he goes to a support group to help him fix his mental issue. Polski doesn't give up. He continues to monitor Herzog. He sees him playing chess and remembers a championship game he played with him in Berlin many years back. Some minutes later, the mailman arrives and asks Herzog to provide his signature for a letter. Polski sees this and devises a new plan. He positioned his ladder on the fence and waters his roses just to get Herzog's attention. When it works, he tells Herzog to write him a letter confirming he took part of his land and, more importantly, his signature must be there, and explains that he is presenting it for tax reduction. Herzog states that Kaltenbrunner will take care of it, but Polsky says he wants it from him instead. To get his approval, he predicts the outcome of his game and leaves. That night, Kaltenbrunner warns Polsky to stay away from Herzog. The next morning, Herzog goes to Polsky's house and asks for coffee. After consuming the coffee, he proposes they play a match to prove the prediction he made yesterday in exchange for the letter he asked for. Polsky accepts, but he covers his family photo before taking him inside. Herzog scatters the game and leaves when he sees that he's losing. Sometime later, he returns saying he wants a rematch at his house tomorrow, and after that he'll give him the letter he needs. Polsky goes to Herzog's house neatly dressed the next day to play the match in exchange for the letter. Some few minutes into the game, Polsky excuses himself to visit the bathroom. He enters Herzog's room instead and finds a tightly locked metallic box. When he has difficulty opening it, he goes back and continues with the game. Polsky deliberately loses the game and he gets the letter, but not by Herzog's hands. Polsky leaves the house in disappointment knowing his plan has failed. Later that night, he sneaks into Herzog's house to steal a piece of painting as evidence. Herzog's dog sees him and begins to bark. Herzog is awakened by the barks, so Polsky quickly leaves the house without the painting. Herzog then drives the dog out to spend the rest of the night. When the dog sees Polsky leaving, he chases him into his house and in defense, he hits the dog. At that very moment, it starts to pour down. Herzog comes out to take the dog inside. When Polsky hears him searching for the dog, he drags it onto the street to make it look like it was hit by a car. He then goes inside, and when he hears Herzog calling out for help after seeing his dog dead, he assists him with the burial. Herzog and Polsky become friends. They now play chess often and became habitual drunkards despite Herzog hating to drink. Herzog paints a portrait of Polsky and confesses his feelings for Kaltenbrunner to Polsky. Gradually, Polsky's intent of exposing Herzog begins to change. But one night he sees some men dressed in an all-black attire referring to Herzog as Adolf. Polsky quickly cuts the painting and takes it to the intelligence officer. She brings in a psychologist to speak to him instead of an art expert. Polsky yells at them and ends up getting driven out of the embassy. During that same time, Herzog follows his dog into Polsky's house and spots the camera in his room. He waits and attacks him when he returns from town. Polsky strangles Herzog and tells him he will kill him just like he did to his dog. Herzog gets on top of him and strangles him in an attempt to revenge the killing of his dog. When Polsky blames him for the death of his entire family, it becomes clear that he isn't Adolf Hitler. He takes him inside and shows him the content of the metallic box, and it is a group photo of 6 people which includes him and Adolf Hitler. He bore so much resemblance to Adolf that when Adolf died, they starved him of food to have him gain the same weight as Adolf, and later they cut away excess fat when the starvation didn't show any result. Later, he was forced to learn his behavior, likes and dislikes, his painting technique, and he even learned his signature. In the present time, what he does with his life is to hide himself from the world and sell his paintings to earn a living. Polsky is still not convinced. He makes him go naked to prove he has 2 testicles because he read in one of the books that Adolf had 1 only. After confirming he is not Adolf, he weeps uncontrollably. He confesses how much he has missed his family and accepts that their killer is dead too. He wakes up the next day with a smile on his face. The smile was short-lived as the intelligence officer showed up in his house. She says she made an art expert analyze the painting and they realized it is Adolf's painting. Polsky tries to stop them, but they suspect Herzog has some connection with Nazi. He tells a lie to drive them out, but they still proceed with their original plan for being there. They plan to be in Polsky's house and spy on Herzog to confirm their suspicions. Later when they leave, Polsky goes to Herzog and tells him all that he did to expose him. He continues, saying that he doesn't want to be a bad friend like their neighbor from the past who revealed to Hitler his family's hideout. The intelligence officer and her team will begin with their surveillance on Monday, so he tells him to leave before they appear. Herzog packs his belongings out of the house and gives Polsky the letter he longed for, indicating that he has given back the plot of land together with the roses. Polsky takes him to the rose plant and cuts some flowers for him to give to Kaltenbrunner. Herzog also leaves his new dog with Polsky. Polsky is now at peace considering that he has saved a life.